Ready? Here we go. A 1, 2. A 1, 2.
Steve Smith, what can you say? Drum legend. What hasn't he done? Journey, Jean-Luc Ponty, Vital Information. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I know since I was a little kid. I mean, he was one of the first drummers I was listening to without even knowing before I even got into drums. And then, obviously, as we went along, he became one of the biggest influences, you know, between Journey and then Vital Information, Jean-Luc Ponty. I mean, everything he touched, it was just fantastic. And, you know, to have a drummer like that was playing this rock stuff and then jumped over into this whole new world, not realizing that's really where Steve Smith had come from.
Yeah.
But having said that, was still, you know, such a great versatile drummer that, you know, he could walk into this rock situation and more or less take the gig, because he wasn't the original guy in the band.
Well, most of your jazz fusion drummers can kind of go into any situation and do just fine.
Yeah.
And like Steve, he's one of those guys.
Right, it's true. Just, spent their whole life playing everything, doing everything. And I guess when you're the fusion guy, it's true. You play every style of music. You know, you work it, and that gives you your own unique way of interpreting things. And, you know, I know the first album I heard, like as far as, you know, there was the Journey stuff, but it was Jean-Luc Ponty, Enigmatic Ocean.
Yeah.
And I just still remember hearing that whole, because that time I never really was introduced to that style of music at all, you know. And when I first just remember hearing that Tom feeling like, I was like, whoa, just stepping back. And, you know, the biggest funny thing too is, you know, I remember growing up a lot when I would try and tell people, like, oh my God, Steve Smith, you know, because people only knew of Journey. So I would look like the biggest fool half the time when I'd be like, oh no, this guy, he's one of the best drummers in the world. You don't understand. And people would be like, Steve Smith? The Faithfully?
You don't even know.
Yeah, and I was totally that guy, you know, like in the room, like, you have no idea. And they're all like, oh yeah, sure. I'd be like, he's way better than Neil Peart. And they'd be like, oh my God. They want to throw things at me
blasphemy.
At that point.
That's blasphemy to some people.
You know, exactly. I definitely know that.
Piss a lot of people off with that.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steve, I don't know. For most of my drumming career, I kind of took almost exclusively. I took away things mostly technique related from him, because he plays. I don't know if I can come up with many people that play as smoothly as Steve does.
Super smooth and like very ergonomic. He's another one of those ergonomic drummers. I know we talked about Dave Weckl last episode, but like, he's another one of those ergonomic drummers where all of his movements count.
Steve, I know you talked about Russ Miller's bass drum technique on the on the second episode, Mike.
Yeah.
Steve is where I got my bass drum technique from. He has a different approach to everything. He never buries his beater, as far as I know. Yeah. And it's nice because he always has a very open bass drum sound. And that complements the rest of the kit so well with his snare with the fire skin diplomat head that's tuned so high that it sounds like it's going to crack at any point. Or, post 1990. But yeah. Right. And all the toms that are just so open and full. Thank you, Sonar.
Super singing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been a big part of my life for a long time. And I've learned a lot from him. I remember there's one time I was at a clinic with him in 2015. I was like a sophomore in high school. I had no business being there. He explained this fill, and it was like you know those moments you get where you hear an idea and you finally understand it,
right?
And you feel like the world was just unlocked. So he did the. Just doing the paradiddles, hitting the cymbals on the accents, and filling in the rest of them with a snare. So just doing like it's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't know that's what that was because my little teenage brain couldn't handle it. But yeah, it's God. I've been in love with Steve Smith for a long time.
Yeah, really, and it has been really interesting watching because it is very true talking about the ergonomic play, something we have touched on before.
Yeah.
So everything used to be so massive, and that's how you wanted it. You thought it was so cool. I remember the first time, like I said, I saw Steve Smith come down. I was like, I was still young and stupid, so I'm like, oh my God, what's he doing? But the reality is you watch him play now, and every time I watch him play, I'm enthralled. I've kind of like, since he was one of the first guys, and since day one, when I kind of got really back into drums again a few years ago, he wasn't one of the guys that I was really listening to too heavily. Simply because there was all these new guys and all this new stuff.
Yeah.
But since then, he's come out with new work and all this stuff that I've heard, and it's just, it's really reintroduced it. And then since I've started working the Muller stuff and concentrating on that, you start to, once you really start to work it, you start to feel it, right? You start to get it. And then when you watch Steve, you're like, yeah, this is Muller out the wazoo. I mean, it is so good. And it's like spaghetti when he plays. And,
is.
For people that don't know, like, he's got bad arthritis.
See, yeah.
And it's one of the reasons he's not playing really much anymore. But he has honed his technique so unbelievably. Like, if you ever watch the Vic Firth Jam thing, like we watched really recently where he does it, if you watch him play, I mean, he is taking command, and he starts playing, and there isn't one. I mean, that Vic Firth Jam's like, there isn't anything but like heavenly musicians up on that and playing there, and every single one of them, the minute he starts going, I mean, it was done. He took command of that room. And you watch him play though, in his technique, he's playing so lightly now because he has to. But his technique is so...
Because he's still getting sound out of the drums. It's not weak. It's just very controlled.
Yes. And it's unbelievable. Like I said, you watch it play and you see the flow. And it's, he's one of those guys that just, he's got 8 hours today, 5 to 6 of them, 7 of them. It's on the drums.
Yeah.
That's just, he's one of us like us. Like, if we don't hit him all day, we kind of go crazy.
And
right?
Steve, one of my favorite.
I do.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite things about Steve is he talks a lot about his process when he got the really bad arthritis in his left hand from playing traditional grip for so many years. He relearned how to play with match grip with his left hand and started playing open-handed. So a lot of time he's splitting shows half open-handed when he can, and then half when he really needs the finesse, traditional grip, regular. And he pulls it off so well, it's like you would think he did that his whole life.
Right. Because it really is an amazing thing, the whole ergonomic idea of playing. And I guess you have to refer to Muller because that's really, I guess when anybody talks about it, that's really where it's all come from.
I mean, it's just a technique that's built to last.
Exactly.
It helps you last. And it's like, it's better on your muscles. It's better for like your longevity. So
and
you
Steve,
can play for all these years.
He hasn't broken a cymbal, a drum head, or a drum stick in definitely over a decade. It might be 2.
Yeah.
Because he has everything, all of the force he's putting into a hit is coming right back.
Yep.
He does not let anything go into his arm. It all stays on the drums and cymbals.
Yeah, and other techniques that he's like really, really good at. His brush work is incredible too.
Oh yeah.
Like watching him play brushes is an artwork. Like you're just like, man, this, because he's like up there with all your great brush techniques. All of your Joes and all those guys. So it's like, yeah, if there's any great example of being a well-rounded drummer, Steve Smith is definitely that guy.
Let's start on 1 and 3, just, because we're funkin'. So ready, here we go. A 1, 2, a 1, 2.
Billy Cobham.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any drum legend and you say, who was one of the first guys you ever listened to? Whether the guy's from America, England, Mars, you're gonna say Billy Cobham.
Definitely. Well, like I discovered Billy Cobham kind of secondhand. So, Dennis is my guy. That's my favorite drummer in the world. And he did that Common Ground video with him, Tony Royster, and Billy Cobham. And just watching that video, I'm like, okay, Billy Cobham's really dope. And like just having to retrace those steps and get back to like all the stuff that he did, back to Mahavishnu, which was like right up my fusion alley. I'm just like, like music orgasm in the ears. It's just like, yes, I love me some Billy Cobham. And then watching how he approaches his solos and so musically like done to where like it's a song in itself, and he just treats every solo like an art piece, and it's just a beautiful piece of art every single time. But I'm not gonna take it all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I also discovered Billy secondhand, and it's more recent than I'd like to admit. First, it was through Simon Phillips, who was probably my favorite drummer for 2.5 years, up until past 4 or 5 months. And then past few months, I've been getting into Dennis.
Yeah.
Changing my life. But
welcome to the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Hello, Dennis.
And now that I've gotten into
Funkmaster.
Dennis,
Right.
I understand things differently. I get Billy.
Yeah.
I didn't get it before with Simon because my mind didn't think that way.
Yeah.
But now that I think that way and I think of the groove in a different way than before, it's intense.
It's funny how Dennis is a great gateway to Billy. Like if you went straight to Billy, you wouldn't understand it.
And, one of the coolest things that really blew me away about Billy Cobham when I started listening to him is like, when you hear a song that starts off with this insane snare drum solo, when I was looking for songs to do, I wasn't that familiar. I mean, I'm sorry. Please don't throw a rock at me from the camera. But I wasn't that familiar with Stratus.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, like and he's literally playing this nuts, like no one
With that synth
up
background.
until that point did anybody ever say, like, nobody thought of that. Like, I'm gonna do this, and you're like, huh?
Yeah.
But it's like ridiculously cool,
Yep.
And I almost get at a loss for words when it's playing through my head right now, because you hear this thing, it's just like, this crazy keyboard in the back and this crazy snare drum. It's almost like
I'm sure he's switching
spastic.
grips too. He's going between traditional grip this way and this way as he does. Yeah, it's like.
And just the way it's like, because it feels so tense and crazy, and then he just like kicks in the song, and it's like,
Sexiest groove ever.
oh my goodness.
And then he's like one of the only guys I know that is like has like the most. He could do anything on a kit. His
Exactly.
body can go anywhere at any moment. And he's one of those guys that I think we talked about breaking barriers with your brain to where your hands can go anywhere at any time. And he does it.
Yeah.
And you could tell by the way his drums are set up. It's not the traditional 10, 12, 14 like setup. Those drums are set to where he can make musical like things at any moment. And it's just like,
And they're not in order.
they're
No,
not.
because you see it. His high toms are here and his low toms come out, but then he's got one stacked
Yeah,
up here.
he's got the 15 here. He's
Yeah.
got like 10, 13, whatever. I don't know the exact order
And
anymore,
then
but-
being an open-handed lefty,
He's not lefty.
he's not. He
No,
just plays
he's
that way.
right-handed and he's just like Simon. He just thought, this is a good idea. I'm going to do this in high school. And then he just did it.
And he does it.
Yeah.
He does it well. He didn't
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah.
He does it.
Yeah.
and you see now, you look at all like the drummers that, all of a sudden the gong drums came back out again, and you pull out some Billy Cobham video, back in the day with the T-shirt when he's
Right.
like,
Super tight
looks like a
t-shirt.
football player, and it's like, yeah, he's got the gong, he's got everything that cats are doing again, even though, and that's, I gotta say, that's still what I do love, and it's something that I love about Simon Phillips still, and he's,
Oh, yeah.
I love the fact and that they still, they still go out there and do it all. It's not like,
Yeah.
I'm 40 now, and given these guys don't, they don't lift up their drums, they play them
But
and go home.
it's because it's not for a look.
Right.
It's for the sound. It's for
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
music. And like if you always think that way, you're gonna end up bringing everything that you.
And it's hard, and look, that's a thing, man. In the past, when I was doing teching work, it didn't matter what gig it was. You know, the whole kit came up. It didn't matter, and that's the thing that I've always thought was like, you know, crazy weird. Like when I finally started doing some gigs again, it was like, you know, the first gig I did, I didn't care. I brought out everything. You know, not giving, you know, this is jobbing, so whatever. So by the third gig, you know, it's like, all right. You know, I practically had 2 things with me, and that was about it.
Pretty much.
But but I'll tell you what, the feel you get when you sit behind your entire kit, because like I put all this stuff up because I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I don't use 3 splashes to say, look, I got 3 splashes. Like, to me, those are voices. I feel naked.
Exactly.
Like if I went and I played a Bonham gig. Like I've been practicing some Led Zeppelin songs, and I'd be like, yeah, you know, I think I'd bring my splashes.
Yeah.
I don't care. That dude that like wants to rip on me for it, I just said I'm gonna bring a real sharp boomerang. Just, don't worry about him. His head's on the ground.
But it's funny how voices can change the way you play too. Like, you know, me being a Mapex guy and playing a Versatis kit, and then sitting down behind your Sonar kit changes how I play dramatically. Like how I even approach those songs. So like trying to think like Dennis on a kit that's similar to Dennis's setup, but not tuned like Dennis. You have to like, okay, I'm gonna have to do Dennis-ish things, or like I'm gonna have to do like Stanley-ish things, but like, you know, I gotta change it because these voices that are presented to me, I'm still painting colors, and I'm painting these pictures that have to represent not only the drummer that we're honoring on these days, but also just making musical sense. That's all. So like, I appreciate your kit. I've grown to love your kit.
Me too. Yeah.
And like the way it's set up, like I don't set my cymbals that high, but you've worked out these muscles. My arms are getting back stronger.
Oh yeah.
But like, and seeing Billy set up, his cymbals are low, his toms are high, but everything is like where he's like comfortable. And then his single strokes, oh my God, his single strokes.
Well, yeah, he comes from marching. He comes from marching, but it doesn't hurt him. That's the thing.
Well, you know, look, here's the big thing, because that was always one of the biggest things I always heard people talk about, you know, and you know, especially like I went to the Berkeley summer school program when I was in high school, you know, and this and that, and the Phantom Regiment, which was a big drum corps in the world, like their drum major, who was a snare drum player before that, Marcia Scott, remember the name actually, she was there at Berkeley, and guys would always say, and I was in drum corps too, so I you know, and all that stuff. Look, it's 2 things. It's very simple. You know, I started out in drum corps and loved it, and I still really do like it, and I appreciate it. But as time went on, and we're literally like, when I was 13, I thought I'd be in drum corps. I thought I'd age out.
Right.
There's no question in my mind I'm aging out of this. By the time I was 16, I was way, way more into swing. Given there were other reasons I left the drum corps that I was in, but even if those reasons were put aside, whereas just political things were like DCI tried to get the drum corps out because they owed judges money, really crazy stuff. But oh man, I
Politics.
Yeah, there we go.
But I mean, no, you said you had to get out because you fell in love with swing.
So I, you know, and that's really what I was thinking about. As a matter of fact, the second year in drum corps, I did drum corps for 3 years. Like I said, I thought I'd do it for 5 years. I was 3 in guardsmen, and the second year I was in the pit playing drum set. You know, the first year I was always a tenor player, quads, and then went to quints and things, and I was going to continue to do that. But yeah, the second year I got way into drum set, so I'd rather be in the pit. Third year I went to snare drum only because like we only had 2 snare drummers that year. 2 people left, went to other. So I'm like, we can't go out there with 2.
Yeah,
that's 3 is, but 2's that's comical. So I played snare drum for that reason. But the big thing is what I guess I'm getting at is if you think musically, you have to have a musical mind, and it's not a put down. That's the difference. There's absolutely nothing wrong with staying in that drum corps mode in your life, because the guys that stay in it, they don't want to pursue music as a living. They listen to drum corps music. They're not going and, you know, look, I remember my buddy, you know, Eric, who was the timpani player in our drum corps. He used to always call my music techno jazz shit. Straight up. He's like, man, I don't want it. You know, and he was more into like, you know, we all listen to rock and Police and all, but you know, yeah, when he played, when he'd get into the other music, when I'm playing like, you know, fusion and, you know, he's playing like, you know, flute, and I'm actually referring to a very specific song.
I know exactly what you're referring to.
He'll know that song.
That's a good song.
Yeah, it's a good song, but that was, you know, like, so that was a difference. No, he used to say all that techno jazz shit you want us to play, because I was always in the pit. No, we got to do this, man. We got to do this, and I'm pulling out this crazy, you know, vital information stuff, you know, and everybody in the pit's looking at me like, hey, just shut up, dude. We're not going to do this.
But I mean, like being able to play that though is like what makes you a better drummer. And then like seeing like how Billy influenced like our Dennis Chambers and stuff like that. It's just like you see these elements in all of these drummers, and it's just like there's a wealth of knowledge that's being handed down, and we're all, you know, getting a chance to like glean all of this knowledge.
And it's our responsibility to take advantage of that.
Definitely.
Because you're not going to grow if you don't continue learning.
Randolph.
Stevie
What
Wonder
can I
too,
say?
man. You got Stanley and you got Stevie. That could be a whole episode in itself.
Like, true. And like, because Stanley is Stevie's drummer and he's playing all the stuff that Stevie Wonder played when he recorded all this, like, that's why we have to kind of do these together. But then Stanley is a man of his own merit, because like he takes the Stevie Wonder grooves and just thickens them up. He's the flour to this gravy. Like he makes it super thick. Like his grooves are. We were just like, before we went on, we were talking about just grooves, and his groove is so undeniable. Mm-hmm. Like we were kind of talking about a certain drummer and like how you could teach groove. And everyone can learn groove, but you can't teach feel. Mm-hmm. And Stanley and Stevie's feel together is just undeniable. Like you just start moving as soon as that first superstition like feel happens.
I don't even think of superstition when I think Stevie's feel. I think of the whole breakdown section of As when he's doing that ride cymbal and just doing that. It's almost like a Steve Gadd kind of a thing. It's close, but not exact because it feels totally different. Mm-hmm. But oh my, that chorus that lasts like 3 minutes is mesmerizing.
Man, that and then Master Blaster, just a consistent,
Yeah.
Like you just can't help but just move your shoulders. You just be sitting there like
Exactly. Yeah.
do. But yeah, but and then Stanley like playing all that stuff at these live shows and just like only making it in super enhanced. Mm-hmm. And like, Stevie's like in his head, like, man, that's why you're there. Mm-hmm. That's why
I don't know where you are, but that's why you're there. I'm sorry, Stevie. I love you.
That was a good one. I'm using that. Stealing that one. But like, and then like watching Stanley like grow in this time of quarantine where you get the chance to watch all these videos and watch his drummeos and watch all like the Vic Firth jams.
That reunion video,
man,
I loved that.
My favorite, like that BBC song he played for the Vic Firth jam. Yeah,
I listen to that. I have to do it once a week or else I go insane.
And like, when you take something that's better than the original.
Thank you, Sput, for doing all of that. Sput, I love you. Please be my dad. Okay, I'm done. Yeah.
He arranged the mess out that song, and like I went back to the original because that's how I am. I hear something, I'm like, okay, let me just check out the original, see how that was. And I was like, nope, I prefer the Vic Firth jam one. And I was like, I need an album. I need Vic Firth to come out with an album of all of these songs because they're playing like Sput's arrangements on all of these songs are just crazy. And like going into that drive with that ride cymbal, like ting 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 ting.
Like they talked about that 2 and 4 during the drum solo in the reunions video. I don't know if you saw that, but they talk about how it wasn't in the video how the room erupted when he went to that 2 and 4. That room, you can see it a little bit, but people are losing their minds just when he goes to the most sick 2 and 4. Just
Yep.
Yeah,
that drive.
It's so good.
It's undeniable. And then like watching him do the Stevie stuff on Drummer's World is just like, yep, that's why you're in that chair and no one else can play that gig.
Have you seen I know that there might be a couple versions of it, but Stevie closing out the show playing Spain?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's young Stanley.
I didn't know it was Stanley. Like, I just saw the hair and I'm like, is that Stanley?
Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
With his now more updated, doper style with the hat and glasses.
Oh, right. He looks like king of the world, but like he's such a chill dude. I love him.
And he's the nicest guy. I got to meet him on the New Kids. New Kids on the Block tour when they came to the city.
Huh.
And him and the rest of the band with Rob Lewis and then Ethan Farmer, just the nicest guys in the world. And like I went back and I was like, man, Stanley Randolph, I enjoyed your play. He gave me a hug like I was his like little brother, and it's just like,
that's the best.
You're my big brother now.
Yeah.
Dennis is my father. Stanley's my big brother. That's my family there, guys. Like, that's it.
I'm good. I'm all good.
That's a good family.
That's a great grooving family.
That
You'll
family
be
is going
setting up that second 70s drum kit beside your Versatis, huh?
Man.
Just to do the old Stanley vibe.
I'm about to order it from Mapex now. Because it's like the purpose of it is it's like we were talking about earlier. It's voices. So now you have like your contemporary kit next to your tuned down 80s, 70s.
Yeah,
kit.
that was it. I mean, that kit replicates the old 70s drum
So you
sounds.
get,
And
like-
he finds himself, as he said, playing that one more.
He does.
Because it really, yeah, you know, it's funny when something like that happens and you go, okay, you know, you look at the old sounds is maybe not as good, right? Certainly
Believe me, I used to be a
qualities,
victim of that.
But then all of a sudden you get a cat like that he's got his kit and oh boy, and then he sets this one up because Steve's like, I want to hear this. And he plays that more because even though it was there more of an era thing, it kind of turns out that somehow it was the right thing anyway.
I follow Stanley on his social media, and all of his stuff that he's been posting is on kits that sounds like that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That is the sound of funk, and that is the sound of groove, and that's the sound that we're all chasing with these like the big fat snare drums and like stuff like that. We're tuning these drums down just to get that fat thick sound, and like this is the sound that is preferred now. Like the high sounding of the fusion stuff back in the day is like now it's kind of regressing back to the low tones, the low dead tones.
Pendulum is returning.
It is, and it's gonna keep going back and forth. But like now we have to learn how to incorporate both of these sounds because we're all doing this music that requires both.
Well, it's common to have multiple snare drums. I mean, it's almost on a gig of any significance, you'd see that, you know, there's always not a backup snare,
Nope.
not a backup snare, but a second snare all the time. If not two other ones tuned differently.
And listening to Stanley has kind of influenced my setup to where I've replaced one of my toms with a deeper snare. So now I just have my regular snare, my deep snare, and then the floor tom.
Yeah.
And like that's how I'm playing like all of my top 40 gigs, my job and band gigs, you know, the hip hop gigs. Is that? It's just that
Guitar
setup. Huh?
Guitar.
That's all it is.
Oh, I love him. Yeah.
And it's like having all of these elements it's like finding what you need and just playing what you need versus like what would you like to have.
Yeah, what you want, the dream you have in your head in your little drummer utopia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And mine is like 5 snares of all different tones.
Man.
And like a big bass drum and a small bass drum. That's all I need. And a really fat floor tom, a good 18-inch floor tom. And that's what's
There's
like
nothing like it.
you see in Stanley playing like this standard DW kit where it's like 10, 12, 14, 16, and the 12 and the 16 are your tuned down fat drums, and then like you have your contemporary drums, and it's like that makes tonal sense to me. And then like watching him play it is just like, yep, that's exactly what I would do.
Perfect.
So like Stanley the Groove Master, thickening up Stevie's already groovy grooves. Say that 5 times fast.
A boy's born in hot time, Mississippi, surrounded by 4 walls that ain't so pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong, moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city. His father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes $1. Space